Joining me now, former GOP presidential candidate and best-selling author, Governor Mike Huckabee. Good evening, Governor.
Hello, Judge. Great to be with you.
All right. You've spent time with Justice Scalia a few years ago, actually hunting with him and hosting him at the governor's mansion. What was it like with him?
Well, I was a little intimidated when I first realized he accepted an invitation that I gave him to come duck hunting. And Arkansas is this duck hunting magnet, and he loves to hunt. So he said yes, and he came, and I'm going to tell you, he was the most delightful person. And he tried to insist that we call him Nino. And I thought, you're a Supreme Court justice. I'm not about to call you anything other than Mr. Justice. We had a great time. Everyone talks about his sense of humor, and he really is that way. It was a very relaxed time. And he was the most humble and gracious and non-pretentious person I think I had been around. And I'll tell you this about him. He's a heck of a hunter. And he regaled us with great stories, most notably, Judge, when he was a little boy, he would take his shotgun, get on the subway in New York, and go out as far as the subway would take him so he could go hunting on Saturdays. And as we listened to this story about how he loved to go hunting as a kid, I thought, can you imagine somebody getting on a New York subway with a shotgun today, and somebody says, what are you doing with that? I'm going hunting on the subway.
Well, you know,
but it was just the kind of...
Governor, I don't mean to interrupt you, but, you know, along those same lines, he delivered a speech just a few years back on why he became a lawyer. And it's kind of consistent with your story. He says, I had an Uncle Vince. Most Italians have an Uncle Vince who was a lawyer, and he seemed to have a good life, so I thought I'd give it a shot. And it turns out it was what I loved. Don't do it if you don't love it. And it's not the most exciting profession unless you love the process and you love words. I mean, this is a guy who, Governor, it seemed he was always speaking from the heart.
Well, and I loved reading dissenting opinions. I'm not even a lawyer, but when I read, and I thought his dissent on the same-sex marriage case was one of the most remarkable arguments, not just for the issue of traditional marriage, but really for constitutional authority and constitutional law. He was not a judicial supremacist. He did not think the courts could make law. He did not think they had the capacity to legislate, which is so rare today for someone in the legal profession. And I think that's why we've lost this giant of an intellect, a brilliant man, great wit. But when it really comes down to it, what made him so remarkable was that he was a strict adherent to the rule of law and to the Constitution as it was written, not as people wished it had been written. And he's going to be missed, but I also want to remember that human side of him that I was so blessed to get to know. And on another occasion, he stayed at the governor's mansion guest house when he came to speak to the Arkansas Bar Association. Again, very unpretentious, gregarious, a lot of fun to be around. And I cherish the opportunity to have gotten to know this man that I just simply knew as a giant of a legal scholar.
You know, he was known, Governor, as an originalist. I mean, someone who felt that the Constitution needed to be viewed through the eyes of the Founding Fathers, the people who wrote it. And he would actually use old dictionaries to try to understand what they meant at the time of the writing of the Constitution. What do you think the chances are of the next appointee being someone as strict a constructionalist as Justice Scalia?
Well, it would be an answer to many of our prayers. I guarantee you that's not going to happen with an Obama nomination, which I don't think will happen. I don't think the Senate will be foolish enough to confirm an Obama nominee. But I'm not sure about the next Republican president. I mean, I would hope that they will find somebody who is as committed to the text of the Constitution and the original intent of the Constitution that Justice Scalia was. It's what made him such an effective and powerful justice. And I really believe that the influence that he had on the court and on shaping opinion and to explain not just what he believed, but why. And this is why I think he was so significant. He was able to explain why his opinion was what it was. And I thought that that was one of his great contributions.
Well, certainly a man who understood the rationale behind a decision was important to identify. Governor Huckabee, thanks so much for joining us.